Good morning. I'm just going to wait probably 1 or 2 more minutes to see if anyone else joins us, and then I'll get started.
At 10:35. Okay, all right. Bye.
Good morning. I'm just kind of waiting about 1 more minute to see if anyone else pops on. All right, Casey, I think since you're the co-host, you can admit people if anyone else joins.
Every time someone joins, it's not popping up for me.
It's not popping up. Okay. All right. Well, that's so weird because I did put you as a co-host.
I know.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and get started. I'll do my best to kind of manage if anyone else joins. But good morning. My name is Jessie Garner, and I'm the literacy coach here at Forts Pond. And before that, I was a special ed teacher here at Forts Pond and in Richland too. So I'm super excited to get to spend the next 15 minutes with you guys today to kind of discuss ways that you can support your K through 2 students in writing by growing writers from the backseat of your car. So before I begin, I would just love, since we're a small enough group, you can kind of come off mute and just tell me like what grade level your students are currently in.
4K.
Okay, perfect.
Mine's also in 4K.
And this will be perfect because this is applicable to 4K as well.
I've got a kindergartner and a second grader.
Perfect.
I have a first grader.
Second grade.
Second grade. Perfect. All right. So today I'm going to show you how you can really use conversation to support and grow your young writers in the area of generating ideas, structure and organization of their writing, and elaboration. And doing so will help grow them as writers of stories, teaching books, how-to books, and opinion pieces. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Just a moment. Okay, and I wanted to start by just showing you what the writing process looks like for our young writers. And it's very typical for our young writers within the school day to go through this entire process. So writing for them is going to begin with this thinking. This is where they're generating their ideas. They're kind of thinking about what they want to write. And once they have that idea, they're moving into the planning, where they're going to sketch or draw their pictures across the pages first. And then they're going to tell their story or their how-to book before they actually begin to write. And then once they're done with writing, they're going to move into the revision part. And revision, even though this is a circle, revision can happen at any point in the process. And then from revision, they move on to editing their writing pieces. So oftentimes, one of the hardest parts for our young writers is that generating ideas. And this is where we see a lot of kids get stuck, but it's really the perfect opportunity for you as family members to use conversation to help make this process for them in school a little bit easier. So we know that our kids have tons of experiences, whether it be something as fun and exciting as going on a trip, to maybe cooking a favorite meal at home, taking care of a younger sibling or a pet, or having a sleepover at a grandparent's house. But where they get stuck or they feel stuck is they have all of these great ideas to pull from, but conventional writing as we know it is not necessarily where they are as writers yet. They're still going to struggle with spelling, or they have to sound out the sounds and then match those sounds to the letter. And so it can feel very overwhelming. So what I'm encouraging you guys, whether it be in the car when you're driving, or if you're out on a walk, or around dinner time, whatever time works for you, to begin talking to your kids. And here are some prompts that I have that you could use to help them kind of generate their ideas. So after an event, whether it be going on a trip or having a sleepover, you might just ask them, what was your favorite part? You might have help them sequence the events. Oh, so first this happened and then this happened. And you might even encourage details. You could ask them, what story could you write about this? Or maybe, what could you teach others? And during that, you can encourage key words. So that might be, oh, so today when you were outside, you were noticing, or grandma was feeding the birds. What type of birds did you see come out and feed at the bird feeders? Maybe your child's gonna say, oh, I saw a cardinal, or I saw a blue jay. Those would be some key words. You can also get them to kind of think about what are the parts or the chapters. So maybe your child is really into taking care of the dog at your house. And in school, they might want to teach others about taking care of a dog. So you might help them think, well, what do we have to do to take care of our dog? And perhaps that might be, okay, in the mornings, we know that we have to feed the dog. What type of food do we feed the dog? Or it might be, what happens when our dog gets full of energy? What might we do? Maybe we take them outside. So you're really guiding them through thinking about what they're experiencing. For those of you who have younger students that are in 4K, or even if you have kiddos that aren't even school age yet, one thing you can do to start generating those ideas is just, again, to talk to them. Okay, so I personally have a 2.5-year-old. And so yesterday was his day that he went to school. It's just he goes Tuesday, Thursdays in the morning. So when I saw him, I asked, so what was the first thing you did with Miss Rachel today? And then what did you do? And of course, at 2.5, his language is limited, but just using conversation can help generate some of those ideas. And then so you could say to your child after having these conversations, now when you go to school today, if it's in the car on the way to school, or when maybe it's at nighttime, and so tomorrow when you go to school, remember that your favorite part of the trip to the beach was the day that you went boogie boarding. So maybe when you write today, that might be the part of the story you want to write about. Now, another part, sorry, there we go, that you can really help with is the structure or the organization. So once they have their idea, in what order are they going to begin writing or put that story or that teaching book? And this is again, for those of you that have younger kids, this is something that I use with my personal child a lot. So what's the plan? Right? Because that idea kind of goes into how are you going to plan out your writing? So what is it that you want or is motivating you? So it might be, I like trains and I want to build a train track. Okay. So what is the first thing that we're going to do? Maybe take the train pieces out of the box. What's the second thing? Well, I'm going to put all the straight pieces together. What might be the third part? What are we going to do after that? I'm going to connect my trains and begin moving them down the track. You can also get kids to think, well, what might happen if there's an obstacle or something changes the plan? So, oh, our plan today was we were going to go outside, but it's raining. Ugh, I hate when that happens. What can we do when we have to change course? And this is beginning to help kids see that as they're writing, sometimes they might get stuck in the case of they forget a detail or they forget what they're writing about or they're getting stuck on a word. So if you're beginning to model it in conversation that this is a normal thing that happens, they won't feel so intimidated or stuck when they're seeing it happen in their writing. So other ways that you could use conversation to help build that structure or organization of their writing is, again, asking them that question. What was your favorite part from that trip or activity? Helping them narrow down something really big to a small little part. You could say, what was the first thing that happened in that activity or even in their story? If you have a classroom teacher that is really good about communicating what they're doing in writing, you could ask your child, what was the first thing that happened in your story? You can even begin to kind of help them see that certain parts go together. And then the next way you can use conversation is during elaboration. So actually, let me go back to this. Okay, so we've kind of gone through the thinking or the generating. We've then moved into how they're going to plan or structure, just using simple conversation with things that kids do every single day. And then hopefully they've moved into that writing portion or that revision portion. So how you could help them grow their writing so that they write more is by helping them connect to an audience. And of course, the teachers are doing this in the classroom, but if you're at home and you've experienced these events with your child, this is a good way to help refocus them and give them purpose. And you can do that by saying things like, oh, do you know who would love this? Maybe it was grandma, maybe it's another sibling, maybe it's dad. And you can point out that because that person was also there experiencing that event, that he or she could add something more. And by encouraging your child to go and ask that person or call them on the phone or talk to them through Zoom or Facebook Messenger, that person who also shared in that memory could help provide some additional details that child could then go back the next day in school and add to their writing. And of course, if you have a child who's currently virtual, you could do that right there with them in the moment. Or if there's another caregiver that's kind of helping support the child during the day, they could do that as well. You might also prompt them to, again, let's go ask so-and-so. They could offer more details. Or even if your child has really written their story or written their teaching book, you might say, oh, grandma wants to learn more about dogs. Can you teach him? Or could you teach her? Excuse me. Could you teach her? And then that gives your child some oral rehearsal and retelling their story. And you might even pick up, if you're listening to them, that they're adding more detail as they're telling the story than they might have in their paper. So you could then say, hey, I heard you tell grandma this detail about dogs, but I noticed it wasn't in your writing or it wasn't in your picture. Do you think we could add that to your writing? And hopefully your kid will be like, yeah, that's a great idea. And then just another prompt that you could say to your child is, again, so and so wants to learn more about whatever the topic is. What details do you think he or she wants to know? And again, it's just getting them to kind of orally rehearse some details that they might want to add. So let me exit out of that. So I know I've kind of just given you a lot of prompts, but I encourage you the next time you are in the car, you're watching your child play after some sort of really fun event, or you're on a walk, I definitely encourage you to use some of these talking points to begin kind of helping them think about ways that they can grow their own writing in the areas of generating ideas, structure and organizing, and elaborating. Like I mentioned, your child doesn't have to be a conventional writer at this point. It could be someone who is 3, someone who is 4, but by prompting them in such a way to think about what they're doing will in long term help improve them and grow them as writers. I do know many teachers send home newsletters that share what genre of writing students are doing currently working on. But if they don't, I encourage you to kind of reach out and ask, hey, what is my child working on in writing, so that I can help them just be more confident in the areas of generating ideas, helping them organize their thoughts onto paper, and then thinking of ways that they could elaborate. That is all that I have for you guys. If you have any questions, you're welcome to stay on and ask me. But if you don't have any questions for me, you're welcome to get off and move on to your next session. But I thank you all for joining me today. And I hope you can walk away with a few little prompts to ask your kids next time that you're in the car or on a walk.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I don't know if that was helpful or what that was supposed to be. You're on mute.
I'm not sure if you have to re-give me access to be a host. Like, I'm still learning all of that part to be able to help let people in.
Yeah, like I mean, luckily it like popped up. Oh, maybe I should probably stop recording.